Hey everyone, I'm Rachel. In today's tutorial, I'll teach you how to color a hyper-realistic watermelon using the Color Therapy app. If you'd like to follow along, search for watermelon in the search box. This tutorial is great for applying to any cut fruit to make it look realistic, such as lemons, oranges, strawberries, or tomatoes. Before we start, I just wanted to give a shout out to this user, Meryl Chris, in the app. They did a really awesome rendition of this watermelon, so that's kind of our inspiration. I'm also going to be looking at real photos of a watermelon for ideas too. All right, so our first thing we want to do is lay down the base color. So in the red palette, I'm using the 6th color on the top row and just tapping to fill in the watermelon and the seeds. And then scroll over to the yellow palette. I'm going to be using the last color. Now we're going to color the rind. Select the airbrush tool. Let's set both the size and opacity at 100, and then make sure coloring inside the lines mode is set to off. Now going over with several layers, just go over the rind and just a little bit into the red part. Now we're going to go over to the smudge tool, set the size and opacity at 50. Now we want to turn coloring inside the lines mode to on. Over in the green palette, start with the 5th color on the top row and gently add in the green into the rind, right where the fingers are. And then select that green just directly below that one on the 2nd row. Add another layer, focusing more on the edge of the rind, and then select the darkest color, so the 3rd color on the 2nd row, and just add it to the very edge of the rind. Blend it in. Let's also blend in the red into the white a little bit, just using that same color as before, and the same tools, just do a soft layer of that smudge tool into the white part. Let's start to add some texture now, so select the crystal tool. Set the size at 100 and opacity at 1. And then in the red palette, select the very last color. Go ahead and just cover the entire watermelon with a layer of that. Let's go back now to the smudge tool. Let's set the size at 100 and opacity at 65. In the red palette, let's use the last color on the top row and just start to dot in little bits of texture. And coloring inside the lines mode can be on or off, it's up to you. So just dotting in colors here and there. Also use the 2nd color on the top row, so it's now a darker red. So I'm just kind of adding in some darker areas, variations in the flesh of the fruit. You can use whatever red colors you like from that palette. Now let's draw in some veins into the fruit. So go to the airbrush tool. Let's set the size at 13 and opacity at 30. Using that last color in the red palette again, just draw little veins coming in and out from the bottom of the watermelon upward, just kind of like wiggly little lines. You can also use a darker red from that palette or an orange too, just to add a few more variations and texture. And then using the darkest red from that palette, just tap to fill in those seeds. In the red palette, go to the 1st color on the last row. Let's add some texture to the seeds, so select the splatter tool. Set the size at 15 and opacity at 30. And just spray inside the seeds, and focusing more of the splatters on the top sides of them. Just dotting it in. Let's add a few highlights and shadows using the airbrush tool. Set the size at 11 and opacity at 70. Using that same color that we had before, let's add a highlight. So at the very top of the seed, just trace it along the edge. So the seeds have a little glint to them. And then just adding a little more shadow to them, just use black and then trace on the bottom of each seed. Now they're a little more 3-dimensional. Now let's add some bright highlights on the watermelon. So let's select the pen tool. Size 6 and opacity at 70. Now using white, just draw little lines. And some of them can be a little bit thicker. And this is going sort of horizontally. So some of the lines are short and some are long, and then some of them are closer together. Just little glints of shine. And then with the airbrush tool, set the size at 42 and opacity at 100, and add in a bit of a glow to some of the lines. Then you want to blend that, so select the smear tool, size at 90 and intensity at 100, or as needed, and just smear and blend some of those bright glowy areas. And then lastly with the pen tool, just lower the size down to 1, and then you can add in a few more little detail lines. So little shiny areas next to those. When you're finished, remove the lines. Check out my other tutorials on tips for coloring nails and fingers. If you'd like to see more tutorials like this, don't forget to subscribe to the Color Therapy YouTube channel so you don't miss any new tutorial videos. Thanks for watching our tutorial. You can get the Color Therapy app for free on the App Store.